Hi, this is Rohan Poddar, storyteller to social good brands, and I run a blog called Creatively Unsettled. It's a place for ideas, insights, and storytelling for US social entrepreneurship. Today, I have with me Tina Peck. She's the co-founder and CEO of the sustainability platform. She's a social impact consultant to non-profits, social enterprises, and CSR departments. She's particularly passionate about women and community empowerment issues. Hi, Tina. Welcome.
Hi, thank you for having me.
Thank you. Thank you for making time. She joins this live hangout from Dubai.
Yes,
Tina, uh, so you talk about triple bottom line, which is people, planet, and profits.
correct.
What I'm curious to know is how is this measured and reported internationally?
So there is a lot of debate about the measurement in the social impact community, and a lot of social enterprises unfortunately do not start measuring at an appropriate time, in my opinion. Because measuring your social impact is very challenging, especially for a young, small organization. It can be quite challenging to measure social impact. The methodology that we use at Sustainability Platform is called Social Return on Investment, or SROI, and we find it to be the easiest way to communicate social impact to potential investors, which I think is particularly important for social enterprises. Simply because it puts social impact in numerical terms that a lot of investors and business people outside of the social impact community understand. So what SROI does, it finds a value for every dollar invested into the project, a social value. So I think it's a really, really interesting way of communicating the impact that the company, the social enterprise knows that they're having. They just maybe have issues communicating it to the broader community. But as I said, this is just one of the various methodologies out there. And there are other methodologies that the company, depending on their scale and their goal, can use for their own purposes.
But internationally, is there a consensus on what should be the standard format for reporting such kind of performance metrics, or
So
it's
that
still evolving?
Yeah, that really, really depends. So larger companies and larger CSR departments will use GRI mostly as the standard, the global reporting standard. For smaller social enterprises, that is probably too big of an exercise. So it is very difficult for smaller social enterprises to kind of align themselves with those kind of reporting standards. So we're trying to bring those reporting standards and that social impact measurement down to a level of smaller social enterprises. But unfortunately, globally, there isn't a consensus of what we should measure and how we should measure it. It's
Right,
more or
right.
less up to a company itself, to kind of figure out what works best for them.
Oh, okay. Uh, so the sustainability platform's mission is to make every business social. Uh, but are the big businesses ready to get social? Is that mindset there? What do you see?
So Ahmed Ashkar, the founder of Halt Price, said that we used to say that the future of social is business, but now we say that the future of business is social. um, Big companies are forced to go social by their consumers because the modern consumer does not believe that the business of business is business. We look for companies that align with our personal values and whose products and services align with our personal values, especially as the millennial generation of consumers. This is what we want. So companies that want to stay relevant do not have an option anymore. They have to be
Mhm.
socially conscious. Now, is every company going to be a social business? Our mission is very optimistic and very grand, as a mission should be. It should be challenging and it should be big. But yeah, that's the goal, and I think we're seeing that shift more and more. We started with traditional CSR, right? Now CSR became almost impact investing, especially in countries like India, where it's super developed, the CSR department. Now slowly they're moving more and more into supporting social enterprises. So at
Right.
one point, they're going to have to realize that their core business operation has to be aligned with the values. And the values are usually socially conscious. So yeah, I do believe that at one point every business will be a
Like
social
so the
business.
big ones like the Coca-Colas of the world, or the Apple, or even the mining companies, or any companies across some big sectors. In your view, are they ready to change? Are they ready to incorporate sustainable practices within their operations and report them as well? Is that happening?
There is the shift is definitely happening. And look, a big corporation is always moved by one thing, and that's profit, right? So when they start losing out on profit because they're socially conscious, competitors are doing stuff and they're performing better financially, they're gonna start shifting more and more. And that's what I'm saying. It comes back down to the consumer. We vote with our wallets. So it's up to us as the consumer to insist on socially conscious businesses and to insist on transparent reporting, because the reporting currently is not transparent. So the companies will still report on the good they're doing social and social impact wise, but they will not report on everything that's not going so great. So there you have companies like Patagonia, for instance, in the States, that's doing amazingly honest reporting. They say, this is what we're doing, this is what's working, and this is what we can do better. And that performed so well in the market with the consumer, because the consumer said, this company is honest and I want to buy from them. So when they became honest in the reporting, their profits went up. And this is the shift that we have to drive as the consumers.
So these are the B Corps, right? The B Corps who are actually taking up and who are actually reporting on these parameters.
Now I think all of the companies have to report, especially in the West. It became almost a norm for them to report. The challenge is to what extent is that reporting transparent?
Correct.
So this is where I hope we're going to start seeing a shift towards more transparent reporting soon.
Okay. Tina, any interesting problems that you could point out that you've solved for some of your clients by helping them maybe, let's say, assess their impact, or maybe turn around some operations or make them more sustainable? Any interesting examples that you can share?
Sure. So I think that for us, when we do social impact reporting, the biggest kind of moment of joy for us is when companies use that report to access funding that would previously be unavailable to them, which is especially important for female entrepreneurs, because there is a huge gap between female-owned enterprises and the funding that they get. So when they go and they pitch for funding with the reporting that we did, because it's an exercise that's long and it's hard and nobody really wants to do it. So once the company goes through it and they're like, oh, do we really have to do it? And then we explain why it's really important. And then they go and they speak to all these beautiful new funding opportunities and they get it. That's very, very exciting for us, because it proves that social impact measurement is important. One other thing that I really personally enjoy seeing is when you break it down for people into every single operation, how much impact they're creating. And they realize, but we're putting so many resources into an activity that is not generating so much impact. So how can we shift that? And then we go on the ground and we talk to the stakeholders, which is always my favorite part. So we did pilots in Haiti, we did pilots in Indonesia, we did pilots in Gaza and all across the Middle East. And then we talk to the stakeholders and we finally connect that business, actual impact that it has on people on the ground in day-to-day life. When you can turn those numbers into actual life stories, it's a beautiful moment where the proper social enterprise magic happens, because you're connecting to the stakeholder. So once you start doing that, and once we do these pilots from Haiti, as I said, to Indonesia, you can really start tweaking your business model. And sometimes the things that the company thinks are doing the most and the best and have the best social impact end up having no impact whatsoever on the stakeholders.
Okay.
Because people don't talk to stakeholders first. They usually think, I know exactly what these people need. And then you give that to people and they don't need it. So once you start communicating and opening up those channels of communications and changing the business models, which happens many, many times with a lot of our startups, that's a beautiful moment of kind of bridging all of those gaps and creating that social impact.
Right.
And
Right.
I particularly like working with female entrepreneurs, because I think that the set of challenges is very, very different. So when you see a female entrepreneur who maybe wasn't sure that she can do this job, or she's re-entering the workforce, and when you see her go from that very, very early stage to all of a sudden getting funding and being this amazing social entrepreneur, that is where I get the most reward from.
Right. 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 Yeah, India is a hub for social entrepreneurship. I mean, we see a lot of entrepreneurs. We see the ecosystem for supporting these entrepreneurs emerging really strongly. Uh, any examples or any projects in India that you're working on or you intend to work on?
Yeah. So currently we're working on a project just outside of Bangalore, which is a community center for women and children who are victims of domestic violence. And the women are they produce handmade products, and those products are being taken into the mainstream market in Bangalore, and the profits are reinvested and shared among the women. So that's one of the projects we're working on now. We're also working with a couple of CSR initiatives
Mhm.
trying to turn that mandatory CSR investment into impact investing. So moving away from just donating money and planting trees to, to using that money as impact investing money, which is very, very interesting because a lot of companies are very advanced when it comes to thinking about their CSR. So it's interesting to connect those corporate with the social enterprises that work on the ground. We're also on the board of a company that deals with female hygiene products in India, and we're currently conducting a pilot and trying to identify exactly what channels we're going to be using, where we're going to be placing the products, and what the actual impact of having access to female hygiene products is going to have. So India for us, my partner and co-founder is Indian, he's from Bangalore. So India for us is basically our second home, and it's the most interesting place to currently do any social impact related work because there's so much going on, and it's also very, very innovative. There's a lot of innovation going on, so it's just very interesting to be in India right now.
Right, right, right. Tina, you are a woman entrepreneur yourself. Um, what role do you see women playing in social entrepreneurship per se?
Oh, we are the drivers of social enterprises, social entrepreneurship. And I don't say this lightly. I say this because really women are very, very interested in the concept of social entrepreneurship. Entrepreneurship in general is kind of the great equalizer, and it allows more women to enter the workforce. And we're particularly seeing this in India. I was just speaking at the Women's Economic Forum in New Delhi last week, and there were so much talk about Indian female entrepreneurs going into social impact sector because it's innovative, it's fast moving, it's very creative, and it's kind of aligned with what their values were anyhow. So unfortunately, just like with any other sector in the world, you have a lot of female entrepreneurs, but you don't have a lot of female entrepreneurs who get funding and who reach that kind of higher scale. It all stays very grassroots and very small, which is not a problem. I'm not one of those people who think that you should grow, grow, grow. If you're doing something small and impactful, that can still be a beautiful project. But we need success stories. We need female-run enterprises who get funding, scale to new markets. We really need global success stories because this is how you get more women involved. When you show them this is what success means and it's attainable. If I can do it, you can do it as well. So yeah, as I said, we are the drivers of the sustainability. Um, Unfortunately, there's also this trap of women as sustainability saviors. So it's like you take on even more than you already have within your household and within your job, and now you also have to drive the sustainability. But that is what's happening currently in the world. So yeah, it's definitely a field that appeals to a lot of female entrepreneurs. But as I said, we really need to start pushing for more global success stories.
Right, right, right. Because as you rightly said, entrepreneurship is one good equalizer, and
Yeah,
we need more women. We need participation of women in social entrepreneurship, which so far has been looked on as as with any other sector, as a male-dominated sector. Uh,
yeah.
how
But
do you
you
see
know,
the?
and also
Yeah,
one
sorry.
thing
Go ahead.
to
Go ahead.
tech entrepreneurship is where we see a lot of women participating because tech is the great equalizer, right? Especially in parts of the world where maybe culturally women are not supposed to work outside of the house.
Right.
Tech startups are actually perfect because they can still culturally stay within, appropriate cultural roles, but also be participating in the workforce. So we're seeing that a lot around the Middle East, and I think that using tech for good by female entrepreneurs is going to be the next big wave of female entrepreneurship.
I really hope so. Any comment on how you see the future unfolding for social entrepreneurship, for the sustainability platform? Uh, how do you see it going?
Um, so we've been around for almost 5 years now, and the field has been developing so quickly. 5 years ago, when we started explaining what we do, no one understood what we were talking about. Now, every big corporate wants to talk about social impact, about how do we measure social impact? How can we invest in social enterprises? So this has been rapid movement upwards. And I don't think that this is a trend. I think that this is not a quick trend. I mean, this is going to keep on continuing in this trajectory because we are finally realizing that these problems that we're currently facing, from the refugee crisis in Europe to the resources crisis in the Middle East, cannot be solved without business participating in solving those problems. And luckily, businesses are starting to realize their role, and they're starting to realize that within the community they operate in, they have a responsibility. So
Right.
for the social enterprise sector and for the social impact sector, I think that we're going to start seeing more and more recognition for the work that we're doing, hopefully, finally. So it's a very exciting time. For the sustainability platform, I think that now we're looking at two things. We're looking into impact investing heavily because that's what we lack, especially in the Middle East. It's very difficult to connect socially impactful ideas with finances. So we're looking into that. And I'm focusing my efforts in the future almost exclusively on gender-related issues because I think that that is an area where there is a huge potential for social impact. And female participation in social entrepreneurship can definitely only be beneficial to all of the issues we're trying to solve. So that's the future. That's the next 5 years. And it's looking bright.
Right. Yeah, I hope, and that's what excites us at Creatively Unsettled, and we continuously cover influencers, entrepreneurs, investors, thinkers in this space because we sincerely believe that this is the next wave of capitalism, if you can say
Yeah,
capitalism,
yeah,
but with a social face. and
exactly.
uh, and I think and thanks to people like you and others who are trying to make this as a force for good. And Tina, thank you for making
Yeah.
time today and speaking to us.
Thank you so much for having me. Thank you so much for having me.
Right, thank you, have a good day. Bye bye.
Thank you, Rohan. Bye.
Bye.